You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account, from NVIDIA to VIX and everything in between. If it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back with your Hot Options Report for Wednesday, October 29th, aka Fed Day. Hope you had a good Fed day out there. Let's see, was it good for the options market? Let's find out, listeners. Out to VIX land we go. VIX popping a little bit today, up about half a point, closing a little bit shy of the 17 handle today. Not exactly a hot day in VIX land, which is kind of interesting. Only 480,000 contracts changing hands in VIX today against an ADV of roughly 2x that, 905,000 contracts. So coming in kind of light out there, everyone kind of keeping their powder dry, obviously, until Powell spoke, and then not coming back the second half of the session. The hot option, such as it was out there in VIX options today, about 26,000 of the D's 15 puts, once again with the 15 puts, this time in December. Average price for these, 23 cents. If you like them, have at them. The 15 strike has gone to die all year, but maybe December will be your huckleberry. As we keep on rolling out to SPY, listeners, SPY on the heels of Fed Day doing a whole heck of a lot of nothing, closing pretty much unched. We haven't seen that in a while out there in the major indices. They're always rocketing somewhere, at least a quarter, 0.5%, it seems like. Today, not so much. SPY closing today, 687.39. Again, pretty much unched. Putting up about 8.2 million contracts against an ADV of 9.6. So again, coming in kind of light in SPY land as well. And the hot option out there in SPY today, 281,000 of these 689 calls. Average price for these, $1.61. We vacillated around a bit today, so you had opportunities if you bought these to at the very least scratch them. If you rode them through the close, maybe not the best trade. As we keep on rolling out to the SPX. Same deal in the SPX, closing pretty much unched. In fact, I'm looking at my screen. I'm hard-pressed to think of the last time I saw 0.0% movement on the day out there. You have to go out multiple decimal points. 0.0044%. That's how much we moved today, listeners. Wild stuff out there, or perhaps the opposite of wild stuff, very tame stuff out there in the SPX today. It also translated to not a heck of a lot of volume, as you might expect, 3.7 million against an ADV of 4.4 million, so fully 700,000 contracts light. The S closing today, 68.90.59, and the hot option out there, it was the 6,900, so 86,000 of the 6,900s going up today. Average price for these, $7.60. So not messing around. The cash got as high as $69.20 today. So we did flirt with and indeed exceed that strike, at least out there in the cash. So perhaps that makes that $7.60 price a little bit more palatable. Obviously, if you rode them through the close. Probably not the best do as we keep on rolling out to small caps. Small caps lighten up the tape both in movement and in volume, off nearly a full percent today, 0.85%. So small caps bucking the trend yet again, closing 246.84 in IWM, putting up a tick below 2 million contracts. So small caps bringing the heat today. The ADV is 1.65 million. That's already inflated, and they're blowing that away today. And the hot option out there in small caps today, surprise, surprise, no downside once again. Rearing its ugly head, 71,000 of the 235 puts, again, expiring in November. Average price for these, $1.65. We've seen a lot of no downside going up of late. Would you add these to your portfolio, listeners, for $1.65? Nove 235 puts As we keep on rolling out to the Qs also bucking the trend, closing almost a 0.5% in the other direction to the upside today. So kind of a wild ride out there today, even though the S&P closing like nothing happened. 635.77 is where the Qs went out today, putting up about 4.25 million contracts. So very light paper. The ADV 4.85 million. So coming in pretty much 600,000 contracts light out there today. The hot option on a somewhat light day out there in the Qs. 121,000 of the March 590 puts. Again, wild paper out here in the Qs today. Listen, I can't remember the last time you saw March leading the dance out here. Listen, looks like it was a put spread. Looks like it was a March 595 double, 555 put spread, going up 120,000 times. Total, there is potentially some OI on these 555 puts, so they could be rolling up their puts to a little bit tighter, more relevant protection. Certainly can't fault them. If you're wondering, what did they get for the March 555 puts? If they sold them for a little over $10. There's still some meat on that bone out there, listeners, and they got themselves much higher, much tighter protection. Looks like they did that roll or that spread for about $6 out there, listeners. You like that spread? Would you be rolling your puts? I think you probably would be doing that as well. As we keep on rolling, pun intended, out to the single name equity options out there today. Was it a banger day out there in single name equity options land? The answer was no. Everyone was fixated on the Fed, so everyone forgot to trade. Only 502,000 contracts. That's all it cost you to break into the top 10 today. There are many days where we're past that or close to it on the option block show right around noon or 12:30 p.m. Central. So they have a whole day go by and only 502,000 contracts. That's all it cost you to break into the top 10. That's not much, listeners. That gets us to our old friend Beyond. Beyond closing today, 184 off a little over a dime, about 13 cents, about 6.5%. So back below the two strike. Didn't stop 60,000 of the twos from changing hands today. Average price for these, 16 cents. So if you want to take a flyer on Beyond Meat, that could be your Huckleberry. Only a couple of sessions left on those, listeners. So get in while the getting's good if you are so intrigued. As we keep on rolling to number 9, it's SoFi. SoFi giving back some to the market gods today, closing $30.90, off about $0.75 or about 2.5%, putting up 585,000 contracts. They, of course, have been on a good run of late, so they have a little bit to give back out there. The hot option in SoFi today, still tilting towards the upside, though. 34,000 exactly of the 31 calls. Average price for these, 91 cents. So not giving these away. These expire on Friday. The high today was $32.56. So they were in the money. That probably makes that price of 91 cents seem a little bit more palatable to you folks out there. As we keep on rolling to number 8, good old Softy. They're popping off after the bell as we speak. Looks like they ended up selling off slightly today, off about $0.50. So pretty much unched on the day, closing 541.55. That said, it doesn't seem like the market gods are smiling upon them in the after hours. They've sold off, it looks like about 16 handles in the after hours, about 3%. So has the bloom finally come off the AI rose, or is this just after hours nonsense and we're going to open up tomorrow? Anything is possible out there, listeners. Softy putting up 586,000 contracts on the tape today. The hot option out there, 28,000 of the 585s. I might say 585. That's wild. And it is, but these are the Dees 585s. Average price for these, $7.50. So would you buy a roughly 45 handle out of the money call expiring in December in Microsoft and pay about $7.50 for the privilege? Looks like some folks are trading these out there today. As we keep on rolling out to number 7, AMD. AMD closing today, $264.33. So getting a nice lift out there today, up about 6 1/3, or about 2.5%. So carrying the tech names north out there, as Microsoft kind of languishing out there today and getting drubbed in the aftermarket. AMD, again, closing 264.33, putting up 639,000 contracts. For the number 7 spot, the hot option out there, 26,000 of the 265s. Average price for these, $6.13. That is a beefy boy. Now, that said, the stock got up to 267.08 today, so there were $2.08 in the money. Is that enough to merit a $6.13 price with only a couple of days left to go? That's up to you. If you say heck yes, then dive on in. All right, number 6, it's the fruit company, listeners. Closing today, 269.70, up about 70 cents or about 0.25%. So continuing their climb north of the 260 handle, putting up 678,000 contracts. For the number 6 spot today, the hot option out there, 42,000 of the 310 calls. Again, Apple, wild paper. Average price for these, $1.94, but it was 42,000 of the 310 calls expiring in January, listeners. That is absolutely wild out there. Average price for these, $1.94, so 310. Even $300 for Apple seems wild, let alone 310. Then again, it is out to January, seemingly an eternity in this market. Worth noting, it looks like they went up against about the same number of the 290 calls also in January. So it looks like we have potentially a little bit of a vertical going up out there today. Also worth noting, went up for a price about $3.50. Worth noting, there is OI, looks like, on both strikes, so it is potentially closing. Is someone actually taking off? Did they have a Jan 290, 310 vertical? Are they taking it off now, listeners? That would be wild either way. The strikes are wild. The expiration is wild. The price is wild. You like that, listeners? $20 wide vertical in January for about $3.50. Looks like somebody might have taken it off today. Either way, that's your hot option in Apple. As we keep on rolling to number 5, the Amazonians closing today 230.30, up $1.05 or about 0.5%, putting up 715,000 contracts. For the number 5 spot, the hot option, 29,000 of the 210 puts. Average price for these, $1.26. Again, we closed at 230, so 210. Got some absolutely wild. That's why we run the numbers, listeners. That's why you listen to the show for wild prints like these. These are opening, so clearly not existing flow that someone has taken off for an average price of $1.26. Amazon does report tomorrow after the bell, so somebody could be taking a heck of a flyer on that. Explains why they're still so rich, these puts. You like those, listeners? 210 puts for $1.26, or would you say sold to you? In which case, you don't mind picking up Amazon for roughly $20 below where it is right now. Either way, hit us up, let us know. As we keep on rolling to number 4, it's Alphabet Class A. Popping off after the bell today as well. Alphabet closing 274.57, up about $7.10, or 2 2/3%. So a good little day for them. Again, they are popping off in the after hours. Looks like the love fest is continuing for them. They're rallying up to about 288.5 in the after hours right now. Up another 14 handles, or another 5% in the after hours. The hot option in Alphabet heading into their earnings today, it was 48,000 of the January 305 calls. This sounds eerily similar to what we just talked about in Apple. Average price for these, $7.66. And this was opening paper. Worth noting, the Jan 280s also open. Looks like somebody may be rolling those because those are probably closing. Went up for an average price of $15.10. So wild stuff out here, listeners. It looks like they traded that call spread for about $7.35. So keeping the party alive, and looks like they're looking pretty good in the after hours right now. Of course, they'd be looking good if they held on to the 280s still as well. As we keep on rolling to number 3, it's Palantir. Popping hard out there today, listeners. Palantir closing 198.81, up 9.25, nearly 5%. Hitting a new pretty much all-time high out there again right now. So Absolutely wild stuff out here for Palantir listeners. Looks like folks are speculating on a potential stock split out here in Palantir. Either way, absolutely wild stuff. Palantir, 1.05 million contracts. The hot option in Palantir, 128,000 of what else? The pars, the 200s. Average price for these, $2.83. Number 2, listeners, it's our old pal Tesla, putting up 1.42 million contracts. Tesla closing today, 461.51, up about $1 today. So an actually relatively quiet day, all things considered out there. For Tesla, the hot option out there, also kind of light, 79,000. Of our old pals, the 460s, average price for these, $9.04. As we keep on rolling to the big dog, yet again, it's NVIDIA dominating the list and yet again putting up a hell of a lot of paper. Nearly 6 million contracts, 5.92 million contracts changing hands out there in NVIDIA today, as NVIDIA continuing to bask in the afterglow of its investment in Nokia, up another $6 or 3%, closing today 207.04, kissed a new all-time high of 212.19 today. Absolutely wild stuff out here, listeners. The first $5 trillion company. We just passed $1 trillion in market cap for the first time. Doesn't seem like it was that long ago. Then 2 and 3 trillion. Now $5 trillion. What was the hot option on an absolutely wild day in NVIDIA? How about 307,000 of the 210s? So again, these were in the money earlier this morning. A little over $2 in the money. So the average price for these might sound better when you think of that. $4.27. These go out in a couple of days. So if you bought these, you need NVIDIA to continue the absolutely upside moonshot that it has been on for the better part of the last few sessions. And that's going to do it for your hot options report for a wild Fed day out here in the markets. Wednesday, October 29th. See you back here tomorrow for the option block and, of course, for This Week in Futures Options before we wrap it all up yet again, another episode of your hot options report. Stay safe out there.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.